Attention, your paradigm is about to shift at the intersection of fact and reason. You're entering Kingston Country.
I'm Dan Kingston, and you're listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast. Sandra Whitten is a Republican candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in Texas Congressional District 28. Welcome to the Dan Kingston Podcast, Sandra Whitten.
Hi, thank you, Dan. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, and I want to discuss your exciting candidacy. Before that, though, with the news that's happening in Saudi Arabia with their oil facilities being hit, I just was wondering what you made of what's happening over there.
You know, it's just another tactic is honestly what it's looking like. You know, we just saw, I think it was between 5 or 7% of the world's oil has been compromised because of this attack over there. And you know, it's a way that they're still trying to show that they have some sort of control and that maybe we'll bow down to them a little bit. And I mean, they're sadly mistaken. The truth of the matter is that we're the strongest country in the world. They can't stand it. They hate the fact that we're actually capitalizing on the oil that we have here and proving that we are number one in the world and, you know, for everything. And so they're trying to use the scare tactic because we're so used to thinking that they had all of the control when it came to oil. But the reality of it is that they don't any longer.
Yes.
Here in South Texas, we know that better than anybody.
Well, thanks to Trump, right? At least he's helped us get energy independent. I think we're almost 100% energy independent, which kind of begs a question. Why are we so involved with what's going on? I mean, why do we really care if it's just 5% and we're energy independent? Do we really need to be a strong ally to Saudi Arabia? I mean, I don't mean to throw that on you, but it just makes you wonder, you know? We are energy independent now.
You know, I don't think that I think that they're trying to use the energy dependency as their sticking point because they're trying to take the focus off of Israel. Because, I mean, the truth of the matter is that they can convince the president to back out. And, you know, for a long time, a lot of our interests have stayed over there because of oil. But, you know, I'm a strong ally for Israel. And if we pull out, you know, Saudi Arabia is, I mean, they're right there. So if we pull out of the Middle East, then we're leaving Israel wide open. And that's not something that we can afford to do as a nation or as an ally to Israel. I mean, if you know, open your phone and take a look at what's going on in Israel right now, especially with the elections going on and everything else, you know, that right there could be it. It could be they needed to have a striking moment so that they can try and take the focus off of Israel's elections that are tomorrow. You know, there's always a spider's web, if you will, involved when you're looking at things, especially when you're looking at what's going on in the Middle East. There's so many different reasons that something could be happening.
Do you think that we're going to end up taking action, airstrikes or something like that?
You know, I think that it's important that we keep an open mind and, you know, it's hard to guess one day to the next what's going to happen. I firmly am a strong believer that we are the number one in protecting Israel across the globe. And so if I believe that the president feels the same way, and I think that as we continue our friendship and our protection of Israel, that we'll do whatever means are necessary and whatever our friends need us to do. I think that the president will take that heavy decision very, very diplomatically and very heavily. And it's never easy to make an airstrike. It's not, because you always have to weigh the odds. You have to look at what's going to be the best interest. Is there going to be civilian casualties and the weight that goes along with it? I mean, and people that know anything about me know that I have a huge veteran/military system that of network and friends and family that I belong to, and you know, having their stories come home of the casualties of war, not necessarily just the bad guy, if you will, but the civilian casualties that are always going to happen. And that's the part that's the hard one. It's number the target. That's not the hard part to kill. It's the ones that are the casualties. And the president knows that better than any other president, I think, ever. He's very quick to say, we've got the strongest military in the world, and we absolutely do. But just because we are the strongest doesn't mean that we have to always punch first. We have to look at all sides of it and make sure that we're making the best decision for our country and for what will happen afterwards.
Amen to that. In 2011, I saw your opponent, I believe it's pronounced Henry Cuellar.
Cuellar. Mm-hmm. I do like that, though. It's Cuellar, though.
Got it.
The L's like to fool you in the Spanish.
Well, thank you for helping me pronounce your opponent's name. And he voted no on banning armed forces in Libya without congressional approval. I don't know if you saw that one. I don't know. What is your stance on the president needing congressional approval before sending armed forces into combat?
You know, the way that it's written is it's to declare war. Is what Congress is supposed to give approval of, is to declare war. Now, no, we're not talking about declaring war when we're just going in to, take care of situations and incidences, if you will, that are necessary. We have, the way that it's set up is the president does get some pull here. That's why he's the president. That's why he's the man in charge. That's why he's the commander-in-chief. Congress is not the commander-in-chief. Congress doesn't get briefed on everything that the president gets briefed on. And I think that Congress needs to remember that. Now, the president's not looking at trying to go into a full-scale war. In fact, he's been very diplomatic in keeping peace and even bringing peace to areas that nobody ever expected there to be peace. So for Congress to just assume that they have some sort of power over, overlording the president, they're sadly mistaken. He is the commander-in-chief. Congress is not. Now, Congress does absolutely have a say in what needs to happen. But if it's something that needs to be taken care of immediately, 9 times out of 10, you can't get Congress to agree on what day of the week it is. So to have something come up that the president needs to act immediately on, that is exactly why he has been elected as the commander-in-chief and not the body of Congress as commander-in-chief.
That's a great argument. I guess the devil's advocate is we've been so lucky right now we have an isolationist president who I feel, I don't know if that's a fair name to call him isolationist, but at least compared to what we've had in the past. And so I think we feel in a good place that, at least I do, we're not going to get engaged in any more of these endless wars. But what if, God forbid, somebody comes into power who has a different idea, and then will Congress have to be that check?
I think that that's a fair thing. They pushed so hard. Hillary Clinton really pushed really hard that President Trump was going to be a warmonger. Right. And even we saw it just as recently with the 4th of July celebrations that he wanted to do. He wanted to put our military out on display. Why? Because our military is what won us our freedoms back in 1776. Our military. It's not that we're trying to bully people. It's that we're proud of our men and women in uniform. We're proud of what we have, as well we should be. But with that pride comes a heavy responsibility, and I think the president understands that more than anybody else. Now, I think that when we turn around and we try to use this fear tactic and this warmonger talk, we lose sight of what really needs to happen. And by allowing the left to push that agenda instead of just pushing the peace agenda, you can have, that's like a bodybuilder who's never been in a fight. You can have all the muscles in the world, but that doesn't mean that you have to be a bully and fight him. But you're proud about your muscles, right?
Right.
So it's the same concept. It's just on a bigger scale. It's just because you have it doesn't mean you have to use it, but you better be ready to use it if you have it. It's just like Second Amendment right. Don't sit here and tell me you've got a gun if you're not willing to pull the trigger.
What about the Second Amendment? I've seen, obviously Beto, I wasn't even going to ask this, but Beto obviously said, that he's going to take away all the guns. He said, hell yes, I'm going to take away your guns, right? And you posted something on your Facebook with your boys, teaching your boys to shoot responsibly. And I think you made a joke, something about like, this is toxic masculinity, because it's not. You're just teaching them responsible use of it's the opposite of that. It's actually what you want. And you have to teach these values, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm just as any other, proud American, you have the rights of our country available at your fingertips. Now, with that right comes the right to refuse it too. Nobody's forcing anybody to pick up a gun. But here's the thing. If we quit making it so taboo, then now there's the mystery's taken away from it. So what we've done with our boys is, my husband's law enforcement. I come from a long line of hunters and military. Like I was saying before, there's always been weapons around my home, whether I was an adult or whether I was a child. There's always been guns. And the thing is if you start teaching kids, Scripture tells you, train a child up in the way that he should go. When he's old, he won't depart from it. It's the same exact concept. You have to teach responsible gun ownership, and we teach it all the way from the ground up. They learned how to clean it before they could ever do anything with it. They learned to keep your finger off the trigger before they were ever even allowed, before the gun ever came out of the safe. My kids have been handling our guns completely unloaded for years. Why? Because now it's not something that's taboo. Now it's not something they don't know what it is. And I'm proud of my boys. This is the first time that when we took those pictures just a couple of weeks ago, the first time they'd ever touched a gun loaded. And they handled themselves like pure professionals. I mean, I literally just had to step back and kind of grab my chest and have that's my baby moment, because I was so proud of them. They were very professional. They were on top of everything. And, you know, when we have these, are wanting to become elected officials, and even our elected officials now, sitting here screaming, I'm going to take your guns, as a citizen of the United States going, hey, somebody else tried that a couple hundred years ago. That didn't really work out for them.
No.
The reason that we have guns is because we have the right to defend ourselves against foreign and domestic terrorism. And somebody screaming, I'm going to take your guns, tells me they're trying to implement something that we know that they know that we're not going to be okay with. As an American, it is my right to have a gun so that I can defend myself in case the government comes trying to take my gun. Beto completely crossed the line. He went even further with one of our congressmen or state representatives, I believe, here in Texas, and said, threatened them with a federal investigation now, because he told them, come and take it, my arrow's ready for you. This is Texas. We love to scream, come and take it, especially when it comes to do with our firearms. I mean, that's part of why Santa Ana got so angry with us a few years ago. You know what I mean? Come and take it's literally the cry of Texas, and Beto knows that. He's trying to prove a point and trying to prove an agenda, and Texans aren't going to put up for it.
Well, it seems to me that the left wants to make it all about guns. I mean, obviously, there's a problem with violence in this country, and I mean, all over the world, you could say. But we have an uptick, it seems to me, in violence. I wonder. I have this theory that the lead in the drinking water is getting people violent, and you have the deteriorating infrastructure. One of those things is the pipes that's serving, these communities across the country. And it's there's a Brookings Institute study shows that the communities that have more lead in the drinking water have more crime. So could there be common sense solutions besides, I'm going to take away your guns?
I mean, that's certainly an option. My favorite one, my favorite option is, why don't we start putting a value on life again? Right now we're so busy screaming, Black Lives Matter, Hispanic Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, White Lives Matter. Look, the truth is that all lives matter. I'm a strong proponent of killing all abortion laws. I mean, life is sacred. Do you know why my kids understood how to handle a gun and the importance of keeping your finger off the trigger and pointing down range? Because they understand that could take someone's life. And so to sit here and I mean, we can blame everything. We can blame video games. And I've seen the reports. In fact, my oldest is almost 15 years old, so I love to yell about video games all day long. But the truth of the matter is that I grew up on video games also. My dad is a huge gamer. We used to play Duke Nukem and, all those shoot 'em up kind of bang bang games. But guess what? I've never once gone through and decided to just rip apart someone's life with my gun because I didn't know better from a video game. Why? Because my parents taught me that life was sacred. We're so busy blaming everything else that we're not looking at the real problem, and it's people's hearts that's the problem. We got to stop blaming everything else, and we got to start getting down to the nitty-gritty and start reaching out and caring about people and reminding people that every single life has value. Every single life has value. I get up in arms because people get so upset about animals being abused and this, that, and third. And I look, I have dogs, I have cats, we kind of have a little farm, but the truth of the matter is that we're putting animal lives before we're putting human lives. And we can't just limit it to killing abortion laws or anything else. Like, we've got to come full circle with it. We can't just be the party of, oh, well, we saved their life, now good luck to them. We've got to start getting busy about, now let's go to the next step. Let's see what we can do to give this child a better life. Let's fix adoption things. Let's fix orphan situation. Let's fix these issues that the left is trying to use against us. Because the truth of the matter is they want those systems to fail just as much as they want abortion to reign, and they want to allow, social issues become the issue instead of the legal issues that are the issues.
There's a lot of talk about the climate crisis. I don't know if that's what you're alluding to, with the people need to come first before maybe the polar bears, But one crisis I think that's really important to talk about is the national debt at $22 trillion, which is the fourth largest budget item, I guess, is interest on that $22 trillion. And then this is from usdebtclock.org, if anybody listening wants to check it. But what point does it become a national security risk? Could we even afford another war if we had to?
Oh, it's kind of scary when you say it that way, because the reality of it is, if we look backwards at history, which the left absolutely hates to look at history, we couldn't afford most of the wars that we've been into, and of course they do cost money, but wars also make money. Look at what happened during World War II. We had people that would go. My granddad actually got an award in his little tiny town of Colfax, Iowa, during World War II for collecting rubber so that he could turn it in so that they could use it, over aluminum and rubber, I believe is what it was, so that he could help with the war efforts and things like that. The problem is that in today's society, we're so afraid to get back to the basics. Everybody's got to have the latest and greatest, most cutting edge thing. I've got a good friend, and this guy loves his toys, but he's still got an old, iPhone 6 or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you're like 900 phones behind in the iPhone series. Like, what are you doing with your life? And he's like, I don't need all that extra stuff. It still does the same thing. The reality of it is that, it's that whole mentality of keeping up with the Jones. Well, our federal government is doing the exact same thing with our money. Look at when they get their budgets every year. If you don't spend every single penny, you're not getting a dime next year. What if we ran our personal accounts that way? That doesn't make sense. No. Hey, you didn't spend all this money? Oh, man, that's awesome. Let's negotiate how much you're going to get this year. Did you still need this much money, or can I cut it back just a little bit? Because I see that you're being responsible. The president, Dave Ramsey, is really quick to say, hey, I could go in there and have all this cleaned up in a year. Just let me at the books. We've got to get responsible with our spending. The problem is that we keep allowing the debt ceiling to keep raising because nobody's afraid to make the hard calls. We've got to start being willing to say, hey, you know what? Let's be responsible with our spending. Let's be responsible with our taxpayers' dollars. Congress has the power of the purse, and they act like it's an unlimited credit card.
Yeah. Well, the Democrats are promising, obviously, free Medicare for all and many other free programs when we can't really even afford. I think we're $1 trillion shortfall in the budget. And so, it's unrealistic to think, okay, all of a sudden we're going to give Medicare for all and all these free things. There's not that many things to cut. There's Medicare, Social Security, defense, and then interest on the debt are the top four. So what, I guess two questions. First of all, it has to concern you. The Democrats are promising all this free stuff. And then where do you cut from?
It's not even so much just the free stuff. That's already laughable as it is. But don't forget, I believe it's Castro that's saying, and we're going to give you $1,000 a month.
Yang, I think.
So it's laughable to listen to them just go free. Well, the thing is that clearly they must not be very conscious of what happens with free. Somebody still has to pay for free. You go to a restaurant and they're offering free buffalo wings for happy hour. Well, they still had to pay for those buffalo wings. You, the consumer, aren't having to pay for them, but guess what? The drinks are actually $1 extra because the buffalo wings were free for the first hour. You know what I mean? So they at least have a way to recuperate this. Well, so it's not actually free because it still did actually get paid for. Just you didn't pay for it. Well, we have this whole mentality of, I'm trying to remember which one of our winner candidates was talking about how we can just, I believe it has to do with the Green New Deal about there's a clause in there if you don't want to work, you're still going to get taken care of. We're literally a country that was built on hardworking, country-loving Americans. Why in the world would we be saying something like that?
Right. How
is that going to fix our debt problem that they like to scream that it's all our fault about as they're continuing to give us more free stuff? Got to make the hard calls. Social Security, that's something that people have paid into, that the left has been robbing them blindly of. That right there should be the first sticking point. Look at our veterans. Look at our Medicaid structures. They're all completely crumbling by the same people who are screaming that it's the right's problem. It's not the right's problem. It's the left problem because they keep trying to give everything away for free. We're a free market society. We are not a socialist society. Look at what happened to Venezuela.
Right. Right. Well, that reminds me of that ad, that AOC ad. Did you see it with her? It's like it made the news for a day and then it kind of fizzled out. But it was her being like an image of her fading into a different image of socialism with a burn effect.
Well, I mean, it's not a terrible image. That's what she's screaming. She wants socialism. Why would somebody in their right mind want socialism? Why would you want to be controlled by somebody else? If we're all about control and allowing the government to make the final call, why are we a free nation? We're the last free stronghold in the entire world. Here in Texas, we're the last stronghold in the free world. That's a scary thought. We've got to get serious about socialism and about to quit trying to sweep it under the rug about, oh no, it's going to make your life better. I've yet to see one time where socialism and any of its fake ideology has made any country better, because all it has done is it's killed off people. It's caused such awful poor communities to just get even worse and completely crumble. And as they're reaching their hand out to the government that promised to take care of them, they either get killed or they die of starvation. Either way, that's still being killed by their government. Is that what we want here in America? That's not what I want my kids to grow up into. Oh, well, it's all well and good that you're going to be okay, Mom and Dad. Don't worry about your grandkids when you're not here to protect them any longer, because they're not going to know the difference.
Congressional term limits are something really important to you. Can you talk about why we need congressional term limits?
So here's the thing. We limit our president to eight years, period. It's just 8 years. Boom, you're done. Why? If we're supposed to all be equal parts of a wheel, if you will, why are we supposed to be above the president? We sit here and claim that he's no better than we are as a body. Why should we be there for 16 years? That's double the term of the president. That's not okay. You know, I was recently asked about it and I thought about it later. The real problem that we're seeing here is that Congress has this mentality of, well, the longer you're here, the more clout that you got. The more clout that you got, the quicker it is for you to be able to get what you want for your district. Well, no, the problem is if we start implementing these term limits, we start saying, hey, everyone, yeah, you might get a little bit of clout towards the end of your reign, but you're not supposed to be here for life. This is supposed to be a rotating seat. Why? Because in 8 years, you're a dinosaur. You've been here too long. It's time for you to go. I've been very public to say I would never serve more than 5 terms. That's 10 years. But the reality of it is I mean, if the president doesn't get more than 8, then I really don't feel that I necessarily need more than 8. I think senators should get 2 terms, and that's it. We have their election staggered for a reason. This is not meant to be a life choice decision that I've got to Congress, so I'm going to just sit there until I can't think anymore. I mean, how many congressmen do we have passing away over 80 years old? Because they've been there since they were 25. Or, you know, well, not 25, but you know what I mean? Like, they've been there for forever.
Yes.
And so now it's like, you know, this wasn't a life choice calling. If you wanted to stay in politics, maybe you should have evolved. Maybe you should have said, you know what, maybe I would be a great senator. Maybe I should go back and be a governor of my state. Maybe I should look at a presidential run. People kind of laugh, I said, about, you know, all these senators or congressmen, especially that haven't been there for a very long time, that want to run for Congress. And aside from I completely disagree with most of what comes out of their mouth, I'm not mad at them. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to live in Congress. You're supposed to move on to the next step of your political career if that's what you want to do. If you're really making a true statement for your state, for your country, for your district, whatever it is, then you should want to keep moving forward, because you're going to increase your territory. By increasing your territory, you're increasing your influence and what you can actually do for your country.
Does it concern you that lifers in Congress are more susceptible to being bought off by different lobbying? You know, for instance, the military-industrial complex. Is that one of the reasons why we have endless wars?
You know, it definitely makes you scratch your head and wonder. I mean, the truth of the matter is that when you first get to Congress, you've got this greenness about you, and you've got a lot that you have to learn, and you're going to depend on your senior congressmen or women to help you in those moments. But once you've been there for so long that you're so comfortable that you can walk the halls blindfolded, that you're untouchable and don't feel like you need to be able to meet with your constituents, even when they've traveled, in my case, 2,000 miles from our district to Washington, D.C., or worse yet, from across the country to go to Washington, D.C. to see your congresspeople. If you think that you are so much better than they are, it's time for you to go. You're absolutely being bought and sold. Why? Because you're too busy meeting with all of these big house, the high dollar people that really don't have the best interest of your people in mind. The truth of the matter is that when you're so complacent that you forgot who put you there, that's when it's time for you to go, because you're working for we the people, not me the people. You're elected for a reason. It's because you're supposed to be the voice of the people. When you're not meeting with the voice of the people and only meeting with lobbyists or big dollars, then you're not really the voice of the people anymore. You're the voice of a pocketbook. Whose interests do you really have at heart? Because they're not mine.
I love it. I love it. Right on. Tell me, what's the biggest difference between you and your opponent right now?
Well, I haven't been there for 16 years. That's there's a lot that Mr. Cuellar and I do have in common. He actually votes with the president 67% of the time. I think I saw recently it's up to 70% of the time. I don't completely disagree with him. He's pro-life. He's pro-NRA. I mean, those are great things. Those are things that make Americans Americans and Texans Texans. I would like to think that should not be a sticking point, but yet it is. But some of the things that he's not, that I am, is willing to tell the truth about what's actually happening here on the border, about what our Border Patrol agents are actually going through every single day. You know, when the government was shut down back in December through the end of January, I was sitting here at my house and I'm watching helicopters encroach next to my house and ATVs and all the other Border Patrol vehicles coming to assist on a problem that our congressman said wasn't happening. You know, they like to throw out all these numbers, but the reality of it is there is a crisis that's going on the border. That's why we have a tent city here in Laredo now. So
how do we stop that? I mean, is the border wall, obviously it's getting blocked. A little bit of it's getting built. We don't really know how much is built. And so what's the solution there?
You know, the first solution is that we really need to stop criminalizing our Border Patrol agents, our CBP agents, and our ICE agents, and our DH. All of our agents within Department of Homeland Security are being criminalized by the left as these angry, vicious monsters who are just out to separate children from their families, that are just out here to just make everyone, just kill the American dream and this, that, and the third. But the reality of the fact is that that's not the case at all. Do you know why our numbers are so far down in DHS? It's because American citizens who want to secure our borders, who want to help with what's going on, are afraid to because the left has turned them into monsters. Nobody wants to go to work every single day and get called a racist or a murderer. They just don't. Last year, I was traveling back. My husband's a Border Patrol agent. Last year, I was traveling back to Virginia. That's where my mama lives. And I stopped in South Carolina, and I had a Proud Border Patrol Wife T-shirt on. An older gentleman walks up to me, and he was wearing a Vietnam hat, and he goes, is your husband really a Border Patrol agent? And I said, yes, sir, he is. And he goes, you tell him the grateful nation's thanking him and stands behind him, that they're being treated the same way that my Vietnam brothers were being treated when we were coming back from the war, and that's not okay. The truth of the matter is that our phone numbers and home addresses and everything else is trying to get pushed out by the socialist left to harm us because we, as in our Border Patrol agents, we're trying to secure what's going on down here on the border. And you know what? Sometimes your kid's going to get separated from you when you break the law. And that's just the reality of the fact. But what we're not focusing in on is all of these Border Patrol agents are doing a job that they weren't called to do. Their job was to secure the border. Right now, they're taking care of diapers. And they're teaching kids how to read and write in English. And they're not eating their lunches because they're coming across groups of people that haven't eaten in days or weeks. But the left wants to paint them as some kind of monsters that are making them drink out of toilets. No, they're making them drink out of a water facility that has filtration system in it that's in every single prison across the United States. That's what they're making them drink out of.
Oh, you're strong on border security, but you have a heart with this. And I saw also that you support a pathway to citizenship. Is that right?
Absolutely, I do.
So
here's the thing: if you've been here in this country and you're following the laws and you're trying to do the right thing, you're still going to have to do a thing. You're still going to end up having to pay some sort of fine. You're still going to get, and if you want to use the word trouble, because you may have to pay a fine, you may have to do this, you may have to do that. Whatever it is that the president, or whatever it works out best, then let's get it done. If you want to be here and be a productive member of society, then do it. But if you're just going to sit here and try and stay under the radar and try and take all of our benefits and this, that, and the third, you got to go. That's not what we're about here. And you know what? Even with your pathway to citizenship, you may be asked to leave the country for a little bit of time. But that's okay, because you're still going to be put into the queue. Here's my real problem. My real problem is that we have so many Americans, so many want to be proud flag-waving Americans that want to get into this country, and they keep getting messed up by this system of, oh, I'm here because I need to be faster than you, so I'm going to come across the river and do it my own way. No. You're the problem. You need to go. But now, if you've been in this country as a child, since you were, 2 or 3 years old, and now you're 20 years old, and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm not supposed to be here. So let me fix this. Let's fix it. Like, I'm all for trying to fix it.
Right. There's common sense
solutions. But I'm not
solutions.
all for you to.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're painting too much of a black and white picture, and that's not fair. There is some gray scales in there, and there is some reds and whites and blues and pinks and yellows, and that's okay. But if we continue to just allow the status quo, that's not okay.
What do you feel about having more Republican women in Congress? I think that do you agree like me that's important to balance that out? Right now, there's more Democrat women in Congress, or is that a non-issue?
I hate to do identity politics. I really do. But here's what the left is creating. I did make that joke, like you were saying earlier, about the toxic masculinity. And the truth of the matter is the left has completely created this term that until a couple of years ago, nobody even knew that was a term. So it's hard for let's just say for you yourself, a toxic masculinity man, to go in there and fight with this ridiculous ideology from the far left women. Because they're going to turn around and tell you, oh, it's because you don't know better, because you don't have a vagina. Well, the reality of the fact is that I do, and I'm not afraid of you. You can't sit here and call me toxic masculinity or anything else that you want to throw at me. Even better yet, a racist, since my kids are Hispanic. Like, let's keep going down this rabbit hole that they like to throw at you. But I can come in here and make some sense out of what you're saying, because you're full of it. The truth of the matter is that they are creating this. They're trying to do this whole plight of marches in D.C. with pink hats on their heads, if you will, and talk about how we're superior to men because we have no, we're not superior to anybody. If you're a good person, then you're going to be treated like a good person. If you're a bad person, people are going to treat you like a bad person. If you have dumb ideas, people are going to talk to you like you have dumb ideas. Why? Because we have common sense. I'm not any smarter than any man, and no man is smarter than I am. What it is that, hey, you know what? You've got some different experiences than I do. You know what? Let's work together on this. I've always been in a man's industry, quote unquote, if you will, not because I thought I was a man, but because I was still able to bring some of the things to the table and even give a different perspective of different things. Not because I was better than them, not because they were better than me. We worked together. There was a huge thing back in the 90s about allowing women to go into combat zones and this, that, and the third. And, to an extent, I see both sides of the argument. But at the same time, I have no problem saying, you know what, ladies, maybe sometimes we can allow a guy to do something, not because we cannot do it. That movie, G.I. Jane, proved the whole point. It's not that she could not do it. She totally could do it. That's not the point. But what happens is that with this toxic masculinity that we're, quote unquote, giving our kids, to our boys, we're trying to strip away the fact that they are still a man, that you're still a man, and it's okay for you to open a door for me or pull out the chair or allow me to order my dinner first. That's not toxic masculinity, that's not saying, oh, it's because you don't know what you want, so let me see how long this is going to take. It's because your mama raised you right and taught you to have respect for women. But that respect is not being returned by women. You showed women respect, and women used to show men respect. But now it's just hey, I'm woman, hear me roar, I hate men. And that's ridiculous. We need to show that we can have class and grace just like we used to. The women of the 50s, 60s, 70s, even let's go into the 80s, they still respected men. But now we're just supposed to forget that we have different roles for a reason. It's not because we can, it's because we were created to have different roles.
Thank you for your time today, Sandra Whitten, Republican candidate for U.S. House of Representatives in Texas, Congressional District 28.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Anytime. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks. We'll have to get you back on.
Kingston Country. You've been listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.